Hello everyone, this is Rohit Singh. I'm a Microsoft Azure Administrator Associate, and post my examination I had always thought of sharing my knowledge with all, and what could be the best method other than making a video and sharing it to you. You are definitely open to share your feedback and comments so that it helps me improve my next video, the next tutorial. So today, the first of it would be definitely to make you familiar with the Microsoft Azure portal. I'm logged into this Microsoft Azure portal. I'm using my training partner's login, which they have created for me. Thanks to SimplyLearn for that. So this portal, as you see, it's quite intuitive to use. This is the home page where we are right now. We can see the links to few of the Azure services. As you can see, there are 100+ Azure services available, which you can use to serve your enterprise customers. The most commonly used Azure service, which we all use or we talk about, is a virtual machine. And that is also one of the reason why we say cloud computing, moving to cloud, migrating to cloud is easier, faster, saves on the cost, agility comes into picture, is because of getting a machine up and running on Azure. With the Azure Virtual Machine Service, we can right away create a virtual machine without the hassle of going for the procurement process, waiting for 6 to 8 weeks to get the service delivered, schedule a change request to get access to data center, install an image which is aligned to our company requirement. So to save that time, we can create virtual machine in 5 to 10 minutes. And even with the image that our company uses. So it's very easy to do that using the point and click kind of interface here on Microsoft Azure. But why to learn this when it is so simple? Let's try to learn how to use it with how to create a virtual machine. Say how to create a virtual machine. Today this will be the focus of our session. How to create a virtual machine using PowerShell. Now what is that PowerShell? Azure PowerShell is nothing but basically an extension of Windows PowerShell. If you are a Windows administrator coming from Microsoft certified system engineer or system administrator kind of background, it's easy for you to relate. Otherwise also it's not so difficult. There are links available from Microsoft which can help you get familiarized with the PowerShell commands. It lets Windows PowerShell users control Azure's robust functionality, and from the command line, Azure PowerShell programmers use preset scripts. We call them commandlets to perform complex tasks like provisioning virtual machine or creating any other cloud services. So how to start that? There are many methods. We can install a Azure PowerShell on our Microsoft Windows or MacBook, or we can use it directly from Azure portal. Let's use the Azure portal PowerShell command. Let's try to connect to it. It uses our current subscription user ID and password, which we have on the Azure. So it has authenticated. If you were trying to log in on your machine, you would have been prompted to give the username and password. So when you have logged in here, maybe you can try to see which all resources already exist. I know you can see it here that there is one. Okay, let's go to all resources. You can see there is one storage account. Let's see how to check that using PowerShell as to how many resources exist. Get. So the simple command is get Azure RM resource group. Press enter. And you can see there is a resource group name, Cloud Shell Storage Central India setup. In which location it is set up in Central India, and the provisioning state is succeeded. There is no tag associated with it. Tags are useful. We can use the tagging when we are pulling reports, especially when we need reports to prepare our invoices for various customers. So if we have tags for each customer, we can use it to filter it. And this is the resource ID, which Azure uses it internally to reference that particular resource. So this resource group is Cloud Shell Storage Central India. It's nothing but a container which has a storage account right now set up. It gets created the moment we initiate the Cloud Shell on the Azure portal. Yeah. So leave it there. Now, I'm sure you are a little familiar with what a what a Azure PowerShell is, what are resources, what are resource groups. Now let's go ahead with the steps of how to create a new VM. So today we will look at 4 things. We will look at how to create a new VM, how to resize the VM which has been created, how to stop a VM, because if you're not stopping a VM when it is not in use, you will be charged for it by Microsoft Azure. Yeah. And how to decommission a VM. Yeah. So let's start with how to create a new VM. So there are a few steps which you need to carry out before you create a new VM. So ideally, you require 3 steps to complete the creation of new VM. First step, you have to definitely create a container wherein you will be storing that VM, that virtual machine. And container is nothing but a resource group. Like we have the storage resource group right now, which has a storage account in it. Yeah. So to create a new resource group, it's pretty simple. New hyphen AZ is nothing but Azure resource group, isn't it? So that's the verb, new AZ resource group. So there will be a new resource group created, and now we have to pass on some nouns. Like what would be the resource group name? So it starts with the syntax is hyphen resource group name. In inverted double quotes, give the resource group name. Say call it VM Rohit Lab. I want to call it VM Rohit Lab. Where do we want to store this new VM? Where should we have this container? You know, with GDPR practices in place, we should always keep in mind where exactly in which region we want to store our data. So I'm okay with storing it in a location. So I've given hyphen location, again in double quotes, East US. So what's the verb? I'm creating a new resource group. So that's why new hyphen AZ resource group, blank space, hyphen, what's the noun? Resource group name in double quotes, location, where do we want to create it? In East US. Press enter. Yep. So we can see the provisioning status succeeded. Let's try refreshing it here in the portal. We should be able to see this. Yes, here we have VM Rohit Lab. It's set up in East US. Great. So this is the first step. Now the second step is, see, the second step may not be required if you are okay to type the virtual machine's username and password in free text. But generally we should avoid doing that. So what we want to do now is to set the credential for our new virtual machine and store it in a variable. So let's create the variable name as like in any other programming language. We create a variable using $cred, say call it cred, and let's give the command which will invoke the Azure PowerShell to ask for the username and password. Yeah, so that's get-credential, the value of which will get stored in the cred variable. Okay, $cred variable. See, it's asking me for the username. I'm giving with admin whatever. I'm giving some password here. My favorite password given. Now we are ready to get into the actual mode of creating a new virtual machine. By default it will be a Windows machine which will get stored in our new resource group that we have just set up, and the name of our new resource group is VM Rohit Lab, isn't it? We would provide the name of this new virtual machine. We will specify again the location of this virtual machine. We will, so the virtual machine should also have a network, isn't it? So we'll provide a virtual network name of where this virtual machine will be stored. We will also have a subnet name specified for it. We'll also have a security group name specified, the network security group. All these terms, I'm not explaining it to you in detail. You can definitely search, read. You need to have some basic understanding of these terminologies used in Azure. It's very easy to read and understand. And then we should also provide a public IP address name by which we can refer and change the IP address also later if required. And then certainly we have to pass on the credentials which we have just stored under the variable $cred. And in the last, we will also specify a size for this virtual machine that we are going to set up. And the size comes in different forms based on what is your requirement. Like if you require a memory intensive or a CPU or a graphical intensive hardware profile, then you have to specify that. Yeah. So we'll just go for a standard B2MS kind of hardware profile, which is nothing but 2 GB RAM and some good amount of disk space. Yeah. I don't remember that. You can Google it. So let's start with, again, we have to pass on, start with the command, which is like a verb. So Azure RM VM is what we are going to do. Where do we want to store it? Resource group, under this resource group name. What is the resource group name? VM Rohit Lab in double quotes here. We have so many commands to specify. So I don't want to type it in one line. I could have typed, but I just want to type it in separate lines. So I'm giving a single apostrophe, pressing enter, specifying the name of, sorry, I have to always provide hyphen before any noun. So I'll give the name Rohit VM. Sorry for being, oh, sorry, I did a mistake. I have pressed enter instead of providing a single apostrophe, yeah. So I'll restart this, just up arrow, and I'll start from scratch again. Nothing has gone wrong. We are just redoing those commands because I pressed Ctrl Z. Now I'm going to provide the location where we want this VM to be set up. So just remember, single apostrophe after every noun and the value. Let's provide the virtual network name, my VM net, suppose single apostrophe again. And then let's provide the subnet name, say my subnet, always in double quotes, single apostrophe. Then security group name, my NSG, then credential, we have already stored that credential, isn't it? Under $cred, we will just call that here. And this is going to be our last one, the size of our new VM. So the format is standard underscore B2MS. So what all things have we provided? We have provided the first, the verb, definitely new hyphen Azure RMVM, where it has to be placed in the container in the resource group name called VM Rohit Lab. Then what should be the name of it? Rohit VM. What should be the location where it should be set up? East US. What should be the virtual network name? My VMnet. Subnet name would be my subnet. Security group name would be my NS3. Credential, what we had stored earlier, we'll pass it on here. And the size is standard B2MS. Yeah. Let's press enter. It will take 2 to 3 minutes, sometimes a little longer, based on the hardware profile size and even based on where we are trying to store the VM. So generally the East US is quite fast. I've seen that. India, sometimes it takes a little longer. So the good thing is it keeps sharing those status as to where it is going, what is happening inside. You can just go inside, try to look also in the resource group as to what all things are being created. So see, if I go here in VM Rohit Lab, you can see that already my NSG, my VMnet has been set up. Rohit VM, the virtual machine, is being set up. The NIC card, the network interface card, has been set up. The public IP address for Rohit VM has been set up. The disk is also being allocated for Rohit VM. This is the OS disk. So as I said earlier, by default, if we don't specify the OS type, it would be Windows Server 2016 R2, which will get installed by default. So it is taking some time. In the meanwhile, let me see if I have a remote desktop client on my, oh yeah, I have it. Because I would need a remote desktop client to log into this virtual machine. Okay, I have something. I'll try. Well, I have not specified any IP address, public IP address or local network IP address, but it will get auto-assigned. Let's see if the IP address has been allocated. Oh yes, it has been. See, okay. Let me again go back to resource group. So we have this resource group that we had created earlier using the command, if you remember, new -az resource group, blank space -resource group name in double quotes VM lab, and in the location East US here. So this resource group, we had specified that it would store my new virtual machine, which is Rohit VM. Sorry, my dog is feeling a little hot today, hot out here in Bangalore. Okay, he has just stepped out from my room, feeling a little bored also probably. I'm not talking about bones or food. Coming back to the topic, sorry for that. Yeah, so I was taking you through this where my public IP address, what would be my public IP address? Yes. So we have not specified it, but Microsoft, if we don't specify any public IP address, it will allocate us a dynamic public IP address, which will always be glued to our virtual machine till we shut it down or reboot. So this is our public IP address. We can always dissociate it. We can always associate another public IP. This has also got a DNS name. So this is quite elementary and it happens all internally without our information. Let's see, where are we? Oh wow, we are done. The virtual machine is ready. It has succeeded. That's nice. So our virtual machine is completely ready now. Yeah, the provisioning state is succeeded, as you can see. OS profile is all done. Windows configuration, VM sizing is done. There is no tag. Location is East US. Type is Windows. Microsoft Compute virtual machine. Name is Rohit VM. Resource group VM Rohit Lab is where it got stored. Yeah. Well, I can see that it has been set up here as well in the portal. If you go to all resources, yeah, it is set up here. If you click on Rohit VM, the first page shows the overall picture about it. It has got 2 virtual CPUs. It has got 8 GB RAM. Sorry, it's not 2 GB. It's 8 GB. 8 GB RAM. Good. It has got a private IP address as 192.168.1.4 CDs. The subnet name is my subnet. Yeah. Under virtual network, my VMnet. The public IP address is 40 CDs. Now, fine. if we log into Microsoft Azure portal, we can always check the status, and it is right now in start state. It's not in stop state or restart mode. But if you want to see through this PowerShell again, very easy again, get AZ, get-AZ VM, which resource group? It is VM lab. What is the name of the virtual machine? It's Rohit VM. And what do you want to check? I want to check the status. Uh-oh. No, I did a mistake. There is nothing called VM lab. It's VM Rohit lab, isn't it? VM Rohit lab. That's why it was not able to return any value. And you see, if you have given the right parameters to the resource group as VM Rohit and name as the right host name, it is returning you the values for Rohit VM. When was it provisioned? What is the status? Display status is VM is running. Yeah, power state is running. Yeah, so we were checking the VM which has just been created here. Let's go to VM Rohit Lab container resource group. We'll click on this Rohit VM virtual machine. This is the public IP address. This is the DNS name, and just to help save time, I have logged into this virtual machine, and you can see that it has this 2.3 gigahertz CPU, an 8 GB of RAM, and yeah, this virtual machine server is up and ready. Let's look at this server manager. From here we can set up, install services, roles that we want this server to host, like web server. Well, do you want to do that? Do you want to see that? It's very simple. Let's click on. So what did we do? We just went to Start, Server Manager. Click on Add Roles and Features. Say Next. Say Next. It's always as easy as you see. And did you notice the operating system running on Rohit VM? As I had mentioned earlier, it's by default Windows Server 2016 Data Center. So right now we can see file storage service is already installed. We can have Active Directory domain services also running on it. But right now we want a web server here. Yeah, select that. Say Add Features. Say Next. Say Next. Next. Say Next. Go for default. Click on Install. Okay, so this is getting installed, and let's open Notepad. Just to save time, I would like to put a simple web page, index.html kind of stuff. What are the HTML tags? Title, okay. Head, title, Rohit VM on Microsoft Azure. This will appear on the browser title. I don't want anything inside head. I want to start with body. want to start with the text in center as header 1, Rohit VM Windows web server running. Just want to give this header. I want to end the body tag. Just trying to save, make use of time till it creates a install the Internet Information Server service on this particular Windows server. So yeah, let's save it. Save as. Change this to all files. Go to C drive. initpub. Go to initpub is the IIS server default folder. Go to www.root, and here you have to save this as your index.html file if you want this to be your home page. Yeah? Now, before we do that, let's try to see what is the status. Yeah, so good. The installation is successful of web server, which is nothing but Internet Information Service. Let's open browser. Let's try to ask me later. Let's try to call the local host. See if it appears. Yes, Internet Information Services. The web server is running on this. Now let's go back to our Notepad. Save this as index.html. Now let's try to refresh. Oh wow, so it has started reading the HTML content of index.html now. Yeah, so we just noticed that it works fine on our local web server, and let's see if it works also in the same fashion from our local machine. So by local machine we meant we would now be accessing the web server as we generally do when we try to open google.com, microsoft.com from our machine. So this request will be going to hit our virtual machine, which is a web server running on Microsoft Azure Cloud. So for that, we need to know the domain name of our virtual machine or even the public IP. So let's try with public IP. Let's go to a different tab. Try to see if this opens. Generally takes a few seconds to open it. If your internet speed is good enough, well, it's taking a good long time. Let's try the DNS name, if that helps. Let's stop this. Let's try to enter. No, it's not working at all. There's something wrong. What could have gone wrong? We went to our virtual machine, we copied the public IP address, then we tried even the public domain name. Then what could be wrong here? Let's go to all resources. Let's have a look here. So there is something which is not allowing the network traffic from my local MacBook to the web server hosted on Azure portal. So that means some inbound traffic to the web server is not allowed. Such traffic restrictions can be done through network security group. Well, in the beginning of the session, I did mention about all these terms, and requested you to have a look at it separately and learn about it. But I think if we don't talk about NSG and its usage in any of the tutorial videos, it would not make much sense. So let's take you through this NSG also. It's not a rocket science at all. So yeah, so let's look at the inbound security rules. We have clicked on network security group through all resources. Let's go to inbound security rule. We can see some ports 3389, 5985 allow all VNet, which is the internal virtual network traffic, allow Azure load balancers, which is again internal, is allowed. But the rest other traffic to this web server is denied. So, you know, in cloud, we always say security is a shared responsibility between Microsoft and between the customer. So it helps us with network security group. It has given you a default network security group wherein it has allowed 3389 when we had created the virtual machine using the Azure PowerShell. And 5985 is also allowed. But what is missing? We were trying to access the web server, which uses port number 80. So let's try to add that. Let's try to add the traffic for port number 80. Web traffic. Let's add it. Destination port 80, web traffic. Adding it. Let's see how much time does it take to add this. It doesn't take a very long time. Yeah, it got added. And let's see if the effect also was fast, like adding that rule. We are again trying to access the same domain name for the web service, wherein we have allowed port number 80. Let's see what happens now. Tic-tac-toe, tic-tac-toe. Oh yes, it's working. It's working. It's working with the domain name. Let's try to see whether it works with the public IP address. It will work with public IP as well. So from my local MacBook, I can request the web server running on Azure to provide me the data. Let's try bringing some change on this default HTML page. Let's open that file. Instead of text documents, make it all files. Open this. Too much of Rohit here. IS server responding from East US location. Let's enter, let's create some break lines here. Just to close. Let's save it. Let's come to our local machine, refresh. Okay, good, it's working. What is this? You can remove this if you don't want. Save. Come here, refresh. Here you go. So your data center with a web server is ready within 10 to 15 minutes. This is the power of cloud computing. This is the power of Microsoft Azure. So good. We have created a new virtual machine. In fact, we did something additional. some icing on the cake. We have set up a web service also on the server. We have customized its web page with our text using the add roles features, then adding a new HTML page in the inetpub www root folder. And we also noticed that it has 2.29 gigahertz CPU, 2 cores. It has 8 GB RAM. Yeah. Now, the second topic, as I had briefed earlier, if we have to resize this VM, what are we supposed to do? Now, if we have to resize this VM, let this VM be running using PowerShell again. So let's click on Cloud Shell button. We essentially again have to take into account the available hardware profiles in that particular region. So as we know, this Rohit VM was set up in the location called East US. So before we think of resizing this VM, which is right now standard B2MS, has 2 virtual CPUs and 8 GB memory, to say we want to change it to standard B1MS, which will have just 1 virtual CPU and 2 GB RAM. I think in the beginning I had mentioned that standard B2MS has 2 GB RAM, but actually it is standard B1MS which has 2 GB RAM. So if you want to do that, first we should retrieve the list of VM sizes available for East US region. For doing that, it's always the most popular verb, if you say so, is get. And what is that we want to retrieve? VM size. It's again very easy to get adopted to. Which location? In double quotes, definitely. It will display the list of different hardware profiles which are available, along with its disk size, memory size, CPU. So yeah, can we see standard B1S here? Yes, we do see that, and it has 1 core, and it has actually B1 B1MS. We want to go for B1MS, not B1S. 1 core and 2 GB RAM. Yeah, this one. So East US location, where our virtual machine is currently set up, does have this particular VM size, which we have found using get-az VM size for location East US. We want to resize it to this size, but again, there is another step that we have to carry out before we do that. Now, every virtual machine which is running, say in that particular region, East US location, must have been installed, must have been allocated on some particular hypervisor running in some rack. So we should also identify if this particular standard B1MS size is available on the cluster where this Rohit VM resides and run. Yeah. So let's see if this particular VM size is available on that cluster where it is running. Yeah. So again, VM size resource group name, it's VM Rohit Lab, VM name Rohit VM. Let's see if it is there in that particular cluster. Let's see. It should also be there. Yes, standard B1 MS is also available in the cluster where our VM is currently residing. So then we are confident, good enough to go ahead with the resizing process. So now the next step would be to begin this resize process of Rohit VM virtual machine. Let's run the following command, wherein we would store again this VM property in a variable called VM, source group name, VM Rohit Lab, VM name Rohit VM. We'll just store it in this VM. This actually retrieves the current VM information and stores it in the $VM variable. Yeah. Now the next step is to modify the size attribute for this VM, and we can do that easily with $VM hardware profile. And what exactly you want to do? VM size is equal to what is the value that we want to change it to in that particular VM variable, standard B1 MS. As simple as that. Now, this has been just stored in that VM. Now we actually have to execute it to update it. Update the hardware profile from B2 MS, which was 2 virtual CPU, 8 GB of RAM, now to 1 virtual CPU and 2 GB of RAM by running this command now. Update AZVM minus VM to what value? $VM. And here $VM hardware profile VM size has been changed already. Yeah? And where resource group name is equal to VM lab in the same container. Yeah. Sorry, it's not VM lab, it's VM Rohit lab. Yeah. So let's execute this. It takes some time to update to resize the VM from, now we are actually downgrading the VM size. And you might have noticed that I have not stopped the VM. I'm doing it on fly. It's in the same region, same cluster. So I'm not stopping, I'm not dissociating the VM, neither its public IP address, neither its OS disk or anything. I'm just doing it on fly. Let's see if it comes into effect without any reboot. But we have to wait for the status code, whether it is, yeah, so we are here. Success status code is true. Status code is okay. Reason phrase is okay. So it essentially means that the change has been done. Connection to the remote PC was lost. We are trying to connect again. Let's see what has happened here. Let's go to all resources. We did not do a restart. Let's see if it has done it. IP was 40.71.138.108. 40.71.38.108. Yes, it's okay. Yeah, I have refreshed it now. It shows me standard B1 MS, 1 virtual CPU and 2 GB memory instead of B2 MS. Let's try to connect to this particular virtual machine. I clicked on connect. I'm downloading the new RDP file, which just helps me log into that particular system using the right domain name. Let me give my user credential that I had set up when we were storing it in that $cred, remember, before setting up this VM. Let me give my favorite password. It's trying to connect. We will try to see whether the virtual CPU count, the RAM count has actually changed or not. Yeah. Now the memory has decreased. Make it a little smaller. And we also have the web server running, right? It is still running. It has not removed any roles, services that we had earlier installed. So everything is intact. Only the server size has been changed, actually downgraded. So let's look at, yeah. So now the virtual processors are only 1 here, and the memory is just 2 GB. It has indeed changed. It has got resized. So what did we do to resize it? So first we have checked if the hardware profile that we want to set is available in that particular region by using a very simple command, get-azvm size for that location, location, East US. Then we have checked that whether the cluster where this VM is residing, which is nothing but our VM Rohit lab, the resource group name, the container, and the virtual machine Rohit VM. So we have checked whether here also we have this particular hardware profile available or not. Just we wanted to verify so that we don't get an error message when we finally do the update step. So we saw that it is available. Then after that, we did run a command which allows us to retrieve the current VM information and store it in the VM variable. So herein, it's very simple. We instantiated a variable by issuing the command to it, get azvm from resource group name Rohit Lab and from the VM name Rohit VM, and it stores the current VM information to this. And now further, we are updating. Now this has stored not only the hardware profile values, but it has stored the other attributes also in $VM. It has also stored the value of public IP address and whatnot. But in that, we are only changing from this VM, we are only changing the property of hardware profile dot VM size to standard BA1 MS. And after we do that, we are updating the AZVM using the update-azvm command. We are updating this particular VM on the resource group name, which is our container, VM Rohit Lab. So when we execute this command, this finally updates, brings into effect the new hardware profile size that we intended to do. Yeah. So this is how we resize a VM using just 4 simple steps. In fact, 5 steps on PowerShell. So if somebody has access to your PowerShell using the login credentials, they can do it on fly. They can program it so that even a customer can do that. Call it using even ServiceNow. So that's the power that you can get if you have a good working knowledge and understanding of PowerShell, which is, as you have noticed, not a very difficult thing to master. Now, moving on to the next activity that we wanted to do, which is the third last, is stopping a VM. The VM is right now running. We can do that very easily, isn't it? Using the stop button which is available. But again, if we don't want to give somebody an access to the entire Azure portal, we can just give them interface through, again with the back end of PowerShell, just to execute stop VM option. Again, the command is very simple. The first verb, sorry. Let me close this. Let me rename, instantiate Cloud Shell. I'm seeing that after a few seconds of inactivity, it is kind of going into hang state. So it's very simple. Stop AZVM. Which resource? Where is it stored? In the container VM Rohit lab. It is stored in this lab. What is the name of my VM? It's Rohit VM. So you want to stop it by force. If you are coming from a system administrator background, you must have run this command many a times. Shutdown -force, isn't it? So this is what I'm going to do. And here, there are many switches available. There is one more switch, which is optional. I'm not using it, which is stay provisioned. If I would have used stay provisioned switch along with this force stop AZVM, then this VM would have stopped, but the allocation would still have been there. Now, if the allocation remains, then this VM, after restart, will again start with the same public IP, same temporary disk and all that. Everything will be retained. But if we get this deallocated IP address, everything can change. Yeah. But the good thing, if we don't use stay provisioned switch, is we won't be getting charged for it. Otherwise, even if we have stopped it, and if we have used stay provision switch, we still would be charged for that particular stopped VM. Yeah. Even if it is in off state, but if it is still allocated, we will be charged for it. So right now, I don't want to be charged for it. So I'm not using the optional switch of stay provision. I just want to stop it. Okay, something went wrong here. Resource group VM Rohit could not be found. Okay, yeah, right. It's VM Rohit lab. Okay, again something. Rohit VM under resource. VM Rohit lab. VM was not found. Nice one. Source stop VM. Script name. Rohit lab name Rohit VM. Oh, my bad. While talking, I forgot to use double quotes here. Yeah, good. We just troubleshooted something. Let's see what is the state here. Oh, it's already gone. That VM session which was running is already gone from here. Let's refresh this. See, the status says it is deallocating. So already not just the stop, but even the deallocation is happening. So the moment we deallocate, our public IP address gets released, our OS disk, everything gets released from here. And let it stop completely. Let me refresh the portal. Still deallocating. After this, I would definitely like to also start back that particular VM. Let's go to all resources. Container, everything remains here. There is no problem with that. Okay, it is finally stopped. Yeah, it has finally stopped here. Now, if you want to start it back, the command would be as simple as this: start AZVM. And where does this VM resides? It resides in VM Rohit Lab. Which VM do you want to start? I want to start Rohit VM. That's the name of the VM. As simple as that. So it is trying to start now. Status is updating because it's still trying to boot. Starting. Just want to check something. Okay, because while commissioning this VM using PowerShell, I did not pass on the optional switch of boot enabling boot diagnostics. Otherwise, if I would have allowed this, then we could have seen the screenshot of how the server is starting. Whether some blue screen is appearing or anything, we could have checked that by refreshing the second by second status from right from the boot screen to the login screen stage. No worries. But yeah, that's actually useful when we want to do troubleshooting. So we ideally should have the what is that? Boot diagnostic also enabled. Let's see if the web server is still responding. Yes, it's still responding back. Things are up and running. Good. Now, we learned how to stop a VM, start a VM, resize a VM, create a VM. Now if you want to decommission a VM, definitely to decommission a VM, first we have to stop. And stopping is again very simple. VM, first we have to specify which container, and in that container what is the name of the VM that we want to stop, with the tag force once we are done with that, then we also should take care of, before we do that, let's refresh this, see what is happening. Yeah, again the status is reflecting as deallocating. Good to see that. It's always good to have a combination of PowerShell and the Azure portal if you are the global administrator. Otherwise, you can again have the status command. Remember, we used the status command to check the status of our VM after we had set it up. If you can't recall, it was very simple. Again, the verb was get-az VM. We specified which container, resource group name, VM Rohit Lab, and we had given what is the name of the virtual machine, -name, Rohit VM, and the last tag was status. Let's try that. Let's check the status here. Instead of doing that refresh button there, we could also have that checked here. Group name. The names are not case sensitive. Okay, but we have to be careful with our hyphen and calling those names using double quotes, values using double quotes, yeah, always, otherwise it will give us error. So yeah, see this command, get-az VM, resource group name, the container name, the virtual machine name, hyphen status. So it is reflecting the right now what is the status of it. The display status is VM deallocated. Let's refresh this as well. It is stopped and deallocated. Good. Are we done with the decommissioning? No, we have just stopped this VM. In order to completely remove it, we have to remove this VM, and the command would be as intuitive as you can go for. Let's use proper syntax. Always looks good if we have nouns called like this. VM Rohit Lab name Rohit VM -force. So we are trying to remove all. Let's go to this resource. Difficult to scroll up. Let's go to all resources. It will try to remove all the, not all, but most of the attributes associated with it. So the VM is removed, but what it has not removed is the NIC card, the public IP address, and the disk. So there is a good thing that you would have noticed that, these attributes, if you want to associate it to another existing VM, you can actually regain the same OS the same web service which was installed earlier. So Microsoft Azure still gives you a chance, still gives you an option to make use of it, or else you can always go ahead and remove all these different attributes from remove Azure RM resource group name. So we will now remove all the different resources which were added on to this container with another remove command. And this remove command is not remove -azvm. This remove is rather covering the entire resource group. And we have specified the name of the resource group that we want to remove. So it will remove all these different attributes, which essentially was making your virtual machine run. Its NIC card, its network, its NSG. You remember you saw using the network security group, you allowed the web server port 80, yeah, in the inbound security rules. So right now I am deleting this particular resource group itself. See, if we go to this resource group, it says it is in the deleting mode. It takes a few minutes, but yeah, it slowly deletes things. Soon you will see all these would be gone, all these attributes. PowerShell, as you might have felt now, it's very, very easy to use. This is also quite intuitive. Once you get familiarized with the syntax of it. So it's actually just a combination of verb and noun, along with passing on the variables names to it. See, it has deleted so many attributes so far. Everything is gone now. If you go to resource group, refresh, most of the attributes inside it is gone. I think now the last step is deleting this container, which is happening at the moment. As we can see, it's not yet completed. Yeah, now as we see, even the resource group, the one which was created, VM Rohit Lab, is also gone. The command has successfully executed and has deleted all the resources within that resource group and the resource group itself. Yeah. So the decommissioning worked. So hope you enjoyed today's session. I'll come back soon with a second tutorial, and I definitely look forward to your feedback, comments, so that it helps me improve the content for second tutorial. And again, I will take up something similar using PowerShell and combination of Portal as well to make you feel a little more empowered, and will definitely make it a little more engaging with your feedback and comments. Yeah. Enjoy. Happy Azuring. Bye-bye from Rohit.